back in the 2000s, Danica Patrick was pretty much a household name, not necessarily because she's one of the best race car drivers ever, but because she was the GoDaddy spokesperson.
Dudes, check it.
Oh, your new domain name and website from GoDaddy.com?
Yep, and now that I'm online, it's like I can make anything happen.
Danica Patrick.
Suddenly I have the urge to take another shower.
This is awesome!
Keep watching.
This is my 5th shower today.
Steamy.
Steamy? Let's add the German woman from the dean's office.
Miss Schmidt.
You couldn't get away from these ads, I'm telling you. And honestly, there's really only a handful of female athletes, especially at that time, that whose names you knew, you know, like Serena Williams. Who else? Nastia Lukin. I'm also not the biggest sports person though. And honestly, I remember being a little girl, seeing those commercials, seeing her be a race car driver, you know, this very male dominated field, and taking over. Even though I've never stepped foot in a race car, nor do I have that desire, it was really inspiring to see somebody do so well in their career. And then, you know, time passed. She stopped doing the GoDaddy commercials, and I thought I'd seen the last of her until she decided to spin the block and tweak her legacy. For better or worse, that's for you to decide. Because most unfortunately, she is yet another ding-dong who has hopped onto the irrelevant celebrity to alt-right pipeline. And again, I do not say this to disparage her career. She's had a podcast. I don't know how successful it's been. Again, like, I'm not in that world of race car driving, but I feel like it's like any athlete where you can continue a career in that field by doing commentating, appearances, etc., etc. Again, like, she's still a household name to me. Like, I still think she's well known. I think she's somewhat recognizable. I'm making this video to explore this pipeline a little bit more through her journey, as we did in my Russell Brand video, which I'll link up in the corner. According to Patrick's Wikipedia page, this past year, at the age of 42, was the first election that Patrick ever voted in. And she did that in order to vote for Trump. The most telling piece of this equation is definitely her appearance at the Turning Point conference this year. I had never heard of this organization. Turning Point USA is an American nonprofit organization that advocates for conservative politics on high school, college, and university campuses. It was founded in 2012 by Charlie Kirk, you know, this guy, and Bill Montgomery, who I have no idea who he is. Let's see. Oh my God, I love Wikipedia. Listen to this. So first of all, William Thomas Montgomery. He was Kirk's mentor, but there's really not a lot of information about him except that he was in the US Air Force and he had a career in marketing. That's literally all it says, which begs the question, who are you exactly? Maybe I should make a video on him. In this section about his passing, it said he passed of complications from COVID-19 on July 28th, 2020 at the age of 80. After that, after he passed, Turning Point USA deleted a tweet that mocked wearers of protective masks. Interesting how they turn tables. It gives you a little bit of insight into what Turning Point USA is, what they represent, a conservative nonprofit basically. So I will start off by saying that her speech at Turning Point USA was a little bit, I don't want to say disjointed, because she's clearly, like, she's a very good public speaker. I think she has a really great speaking voice and stage presence.
Great gowns, beautiful gowns.
But even at the end of the speech, I was like, wait, why is she here? Again, she voted for the first time this year. 2024. I'm recording this the day after Christmas. It is 2024. So she voted for the first time, and now she's a keynote speaker at your political activism nonprofit conference. Like, I mean, I get it. She's a famous person who voted for your candidate, so you want to prop her up. But I was just like a little confused about what that was. But again, I didn't really look into the conference. I just was like, okay, what is this generic motivational speech? Like, it was a little bit odd. It was 20 minutes long. I'll link it below if you want to watch it for yourself, but I'm gonna sum it up here and now and save you some time. Watch this video be longer than 20 minutes, LOL. So Patrick's real interest in politics began with health. According to her, she's an athlete. She's very concerned about health. So she talked about, you know, she can't feel safe with the food we eat, the water we drink, the air in the sky, which is like, yes, agreed. The two-party system in this country is so frustrating for so many of us because we truly see eye to eye on a lot of the same issues, but it's coming at it from a different perspective. And I don't say this to validate some of the things we're going to get into as far as what she says. I say this to the bigger point of we're all in this together. Like, we either thrive together or suffer together, because at the end of the day, the vast majority of us are not in this like high earning bracket where you can sort of be immune to a lot of the things affected by politics, right? So she said that was what got her interested in politics. She's like, this is too much. Like, I don't feel safe with these things. And this part I was like, girl, okay. She was like, you know, yes, you can grow your own food, which I wanted to stop. I wanted to like stop her and be like, some people can grow their own food. People with access, either at their own home or like a community garden, and with the time to tend to their garden, theoretically you can grow your own food. But it's like, I'm just saying there's a lot of people who can't. Children. So she said, yes, you can grow your own food, but then the chemtrails are dropping chemicals on your food. So clearly she is a victim of fear mongering. I think that a lot of people who fall into the Fox News category are afraid. Like, they don't know what to do. They're scared, and all of us are scared. You know, it's not a secret. We're all scared, but a lot of news institutions, including, you know, most of all, I would say Fox News, their goal is to get you scared and upset. And it's unfortunate because it works. And they feed these talking points that a viewer could like make the reach that it's legitimate, but there's no facts backing it. So chemtrails, for example, I personally have not seen proof of that. At the same time, like, the distrust of the government is all around. That is not solely a conservative concern. Like, that is a concern everywhere. Is, you know, we all know that corporations and the government and entities in control are lying to us intentionally. But I think we have to get real about who's lying about what and why. And I think that that's where a lot of the misguidedness comes from. She says, we're putting vaccines in food. This is a direct quote. We're putting vaccines in food like lettuce and potatoes. We're putting vaccines in food. Okay, honestly, I was like, did she make that up? Like, I was really confused. But it turns out there are edible vaccines. Now, I'm not in the medical field, never claimed to be, but it says on this Wikipedia page, which I will link below, presently there are edible vaccines for measles, cholera, foot and mouth disease, and hepatitis B, C, and E. However, even though there are edible vaccines, they are predominantly tested in animal testing and development phases, with some human clinical trials being conducted. As mentioned above, human trials have revolved around potatoes. Honestly, that's pretty cool for preventing the spread of disease. So I know there are a lot of conspiracy theories about diseases, but I'm like, can we get a conspiracy theory started about the deathly effects of measles? Maybe if we say that they're injecting measles into things, then people will care about protecting against it. I don't know. Just an idea. Anyway, that's interesting. Thanks, Danica. I just learned something new. So yeah, she said that as a negative thing, of course, because conservatives, again, with the fear mongering, are very scared of vaccines. I do have somebody in my life who's been permanently disabled by polio, and that has amazingly been eradicated, like, in recent history. It's the double standard and just the lack of information and fear around things, like with Bill Montgomery, who again passed from COVID. Patrick goes on in an attempt to make a really strong point about the idea of truth and how we don't know what's true anymore. We don't know what to trust, which again, I agree with that. I think it is rather difficult, which is why outlets like TikTok allow you to get more perspectives on a story. They encourage critical thinking. That's a tough one for a lot of us, so. She said, quote, "Thank God for Donald Trump for telling us that there was fake news out there." Thank God. Thank God for somebody saying fake news. That part was funny in the speech because she like paused. I think she was expecting this uproarious applause and it was just silence. But that speaks to what her aim was with this speech. She was definitely doing that thing that a lot of public speakers do where they'll like pepper in things that are relevant to the crowd. So as a conservative crowd who most, if not all, voted for Donald Trump, she was really S in his D, if you know what I'm saying. She goes on to express her frustration that saying she loves America, saying that you love this country and donning the American flag is synonymous with being a Republican. And you know what? It's kind of true, but there's a reason for that truth. You know, it's like if you're wearing a shirt that says "I heart Brazil," I'm gonna be like, oh, they're probably from Brazil, or they've been there, or they know somebody, you know, somebody they love got them that shirt. Like, there's a reason for that assumption. A big reason why people are not proud to fly the American flag is because they don't agree with what's going on in this country, like myself. History has shown that nationalism is essentially the cause of all major wars. When you really break it down, to define this, nationalism is the identification with one's own nation and support for its interests, especially to the exclusion or detriment of the interests of other nations. It's different than patriotism, than being proud of your country. So myself, I am not a conservative. I love this country. In a lot of ways, I really am proud of a lot of things about living here, that we have here. I love being able to access all of the natural beauty. There's so much culture here. There's amazing people here. I mean, for all intents and purposes, for my own experience, it's a good place to live. The problem is, it's not a good place to live for everyone. We're also not a good country to other countries. So it's like my parents. I love my parents, but if they went out and hurt somebody, I wouldn't like support that to any end. I would criticize it. So in the same way, I love this country. When its representatives are making choices I disagree with, I'm going to criticize that. Nationalism would protect our own interests to that very end, you know, that the end justifies the means, basically, which I disagree with. So Danica Patrick has an American flag tramp stamp, which is an interesting choice. As somebody who loves tramp stamps, it's an interesting choice. In the same way, I wouldn't get an artist's, like a musical artist's portrait tattooed on myself. I wouldn't get the American flag tattooed on myself because to me, it's almost like, I mean, it depends on how you view it, but it's like an endorsement of that person or that thing when it's permanently on your body. Again, as somebody with tattoos, you know, I support all rights and actions of hummingbirds, you know, maybe to my detriment. Cancel me. In her speech, Patrick talks about her journey in politics this past year, and she actually ended up on the campaign trail with Trump, which again is so interesting for somebody who has no knowledge, experience, or history with politics, with policy. It's like, why should I listen to you? Let's bring Ja Rule in here at this point.
We got Ja Rule on the phone. Let's see what Ja's thoughts are on this tragedy. Who gives a fuck what Ja Rule thinks at a time like this?
You know what I'm saying? Like, why? You know why? Because they couldn't get anyone else. Oh, Patrick also dips into some kind of generic manifestation talk. She said, quote, "What's for you will give you energy, and what's not meant for you will steal your energy." Which again, I agree with, yes. She's basically saying you don't necessarily lack passion, you're just probably not in the right place. And politics has given her this, like, you know, breath of life, which I kind of think it's more attributed to her proximity to the spotlight like she used to be in. I'm not saying that because she's new to politics, she doesn't deserve a seat at the table or a say, because politics affects all of us, you know, all of us citizens. What I am saying is she doesn't have an expert perspective. So why are you here? And why are we talking about this, more importantly? She said, quote, "We didn't take a day off. And you know who did take a day off? Carmela," end quote. Which is just offensive on so many levels, but we're not even gonna like get into that in this video. Patrick also tells an anecdote from being on the campaign trail with Trump about how she's been known to have a super firm handshake, and like it's been even referenced in interviews. I guess it was a conversation like on the plane. So Trump, being him, said, "Shake my hand as hard as you can." And this was just after he was showing everyone how bruised his hand was from all the hand shaking he had done that day. And that was kind of the end of the story. Like, she said she shook his hand and he was fine. She's like, maybe I didn't shake his hand hard enough because I feel like he can, you know, he can handle a strong woman. There's no conversation. She started this speech talking about why she got into politics, yet there's no mention of policy throughout this, of legitimate action and implementation of policy, which speaks to her inexperience in this field. She said, quote, "He," in reference to Trump, "has an insane energy and humor, and it's clear he's doing what's right for him," unquote. To which I would like to say, had you not seen him on TV before? Like, that's his public persona. That's how he was on The Apprentice. That's how he's been in TV shows and appearances. He likes attention. It really doesn't have to do with politics. It has to do with the attention and the power. Let's not forget that. Right before wrapping up, she just like quickly throws in a little tidbit about how important family is, saying, quote, "The least we can do is keep the nuclear family," which I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I have to point out, Danica Patrick is not married and does not have children. And I am not married and don't have kids either, so I'm not like judging her because I don't care. But my point is, like, are we not practicing what we preach then? Like, what are you saying here? She says, quote, "The nuclear family is something they've tried to tear apart for the last good few years, and we're not having it. Rights are taken away from parents and children," unquote. Like, what does that mean? Like, she's clearly gotten the same spinner from Trump because of the word salad going on here. It's just these phrases thrown in, but like, you're not really saying anything. What rights are being taken away from parents and children, and how are we gonna stop it? You know, let's start talking about that. You could have done a whole speech on that and actually made a point. And also, who is they? Who's trying to tear apart the nuclear family? Because as far as I can tell, it's corporations. This again speaks to the point that even though there's bipartisanship in this country, we all want the same things. And the fact of the matter is, community is very broken. And that's intentional. Community is broken because capitalism is intended to replace what community is for us. So if you want to criticize that and address the importance of family, let's talk about corporate influence in politics. And I know the perfect person for you to talk to about that, Danica. She ends this corn maze of a speech by saying, quote, "All I did was believe in something. Your truth leads to your calling, and your calling leads to the energy that gets brought up within you so you can go ahead and make an impact. And then that impact that you make becomes your legacy." Again, why are you here? And I can be pretty critical of speeches. Like, this is not just me judging this because she has different beliefs than myself. Like, Trust me, I can judge anybody and anything. I would make the same exact judgment if a celebrity came to a convention that I was at. In fact, I went to a business speech to see Mr. Wonderful, aka Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, speak, because my friend and I were getting into a business together and we wanted to learn more. So we show up to this event as predicted. He was there briefly, did his little speech, and the rest of the event was a pitch for this real estate growth strategy thingy-majig, one of those scam things. And he's the hook, of course, to get people to sign up in the doors. And I don't want to say I fell for it because we expected this. We just wanted to see him speak. But again, I was also critical of that speech because he didn't really say much. He did say something though. I did glean value from that. Whereas with Danica's speech, I don't understand where, what you would get from that, from an objective standpoint. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments. Danica's also made it clear in this speech and in other things I've read about her that her parents and her sister, she's very close to them. She's very close to her family, and they are also conservative. And I think that goes to show that we are very influenced by our communities, and that's not a bad thing. But again, she doesn't have experience in politics. And so I think it's a little alarming to put somebody on a national stage who is brand new to this subject. If I was a first-year med school student, why would I be speaking at a convention for doctors? You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't really make sense to me, except for the fact that she's famous. A lot of people who watch race car driving, not all, but a lot, are conservative. And so I think she's viewing it from a business standpoint as well. She mentioned her podcast in this speech. She's done some moderating gigs since this recent foray into politics. So I think it's okay to find passions at in your 40s. I think that's wonderful. There's truly nothing wrong with that. But I'm here to call it like it is and question why now. And through my mini investigation, I'm not impressed. Honestly, what bothers me the most about this situation is it seems like she's parroting Fox News and Trump speaking points, and I'm not seeing the critical thinking aspect. I'm not hearing what research across the board she has done, right? So again, that's often my criticism of conservatives and a lot of people in general, not just conservatives. And come for me, correct me. Let's have a conversation. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please hit the subscribe button, and turn on post notifications. I'm hoping to post a lot more in 2025. I'm getting myself together. This is our year.
Raider Nation will rise again.
No, for real though, it's gonna happen. I will be making a long-awaited, updated Real Housewives Ultimate Ranking, so stay tuned for that. I will continue talking about scams, cults, and probably the right-wing grifter pipeline, because clearly that's been a favorite subject of mine, and it's just been relevant lately. I hope you had an amazing holiday season, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!